Good morning, everyone. It's just about 10 o'clock. It's going to be a good meeting. Tuesday, February 20th, I'd like to call this meeting to order. And if you would, let's all stand for the pledge. Marion is going to offer the pledge, and then Nick Montague is going to offer our prayer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, we are thankful for the Board of Supervisors to be able to meet, and we're thankful for the decisions they're able to make, and we are thankful for the county employees who have spent so much time helping the citizens of Gila County, and we ask Thee to help Your Spirit to be with them, that they will make the best choices that they can. And say these things in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Nick. Please be seated. Okay. So our first presentation this morning is with Erica Raymond. So it's item 2A, recognition of Gila County employees who have been employed for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, and 40 years. That's a long time to be with the county. So Erica, just guide us through this, and we want to take some pictures and recognize our employees for all that they do.
Exactly.
Thank you.
So if you all don't mind coming up in front. As mentioned, this is a nomination, or this is recognition of those employees who've been employed in 2023. We are asking that you all hang out a moment just for a group photo afterwards. We do have some light refreshments, and we are asking that applause be held until the end. And with no further ado, we'll get started. So for our 5 years with the county, we have Ryan Alcorn, Jamie Lynn Anderson, Stephen Armstrong, Bianca Arin, and if you would like to come up and get your item, I thought I saw Bianca. Eric Avalos, Marin Belling, Ashley Boyce, Candice Carbajal, and we'll take a group photo outside, that way you all don't. Apologize, I am Candice Carbajal, Melissa Cervantes, Kenneth Dillman, Stacy Espinosa, Daniel Gale, Jessen Gillespie, Megan Hawley, Katie Judd, Anna Marie Lavario, Lacey Moore, Dylan Mojica, Terry Morel Stansel, sorry, Anna Marie, then Lacey, Kimberly O'Rourke, Rebecca Phillips, Randall Plumer, Destiny Rocha, Dan Rodriguez, Chevelle Sandoval, Charles Spelink, Amy Staten, Karen Whiting, and Paul Walterbeck. And that concludes our 5 years. And next we have our 10-year employees. We have Bradley Beauchamp, Stephanie Chidas, Michael Hill, Betty Hurst, Daniel Irish, Daniel Lowe, Steve McFarland, Paul Miller, Crystal Montano, Janet Ostrom, Patricia Pfeiffer, Patricia, Brian Rogers, Christian Rosales, John Shepard, Jeff Taylor, Rebecca Taylor, Allison Torres, and Scott Warren. And that concludes our 10 years. Next up, we have 15 years with the county. We have Brenda Kova, Lisa King, Brenda Kova, Joel McDaniel, Christopher McRory, Thor Knutson, and Nancy Rutherford. And that concludes our 15 years with the county. All right. With our 20-year employees, we have Stell Bellardi, Christine Garrett, Athena Gooding, Rebecca Guadiana, Yvette Hoffman, Paula Horn, Terry Solberg, and Sarah White. For 25 years, we have Cynthia Castaneda, she's coming, Roylene Mizels, and Lindy Trimble. Moving on. Moving to our 30-year employees, we have Amelia Baxley, Julie Picardo Homan, John Costanetta,
See you in 10 years.
yeah, John Costanetta, all right.
We work together. He's
And lastly, lastly, we have Tim Scott. For 35 years, we have Sylvia Hernandez. And for 40 years, we have Jonelle Greenwald.
Special one. Wow. I'm on the red carpet.
And that does conclude our meeting. If you don't mind, we'll head out to the front for a group photo. All right, and I'll have everyone head out.
I'm gonna ask one question. I'm sorry. Can you hold it forward just a little bit so the glare's not on it? There you go. 1, 2, 3. Perfect.
His name that was called would have been here, we wouldn't have had enough room. There's a lot of people. Okay, so we have, let me look here. We have a public hearing about item 3A. So is that what this is for, Samantha? This Greg Barsness wants to speak? No, this will be at the end. Okay, thank you. All right, I need a motion to recess as the Gila County Board of Supervisors and convene as the Gila County Flood Control District Board of Directors.
So moved, Mr. Chair. I'll second that.
Okay, move and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay, so we're going to be talking information, discussion, and action to approve the amended Gila County Floodplain Management Ordinance. And Dard, I think you're on.
Mr.
Chairman, members of the board, I'm glad to be here with you and glad to be presenting this amendment to the floodplain management ordinance. It's the seventh amendment that's been done since the original in 1986. So every few years we'll go through and usually it's after the state or FEMA. State does it on behalf of FEMA, does basically an audit of our way we manage the flood insurance program and the regulations that they require for us to have that available to our citizens. And this time it's nothing different. We've got a few changes that they have requested, and then we saw a few things that we needed to fix to make it clearer for our residents to understand what they needed to do. So we did have a work session on this already. Do you want me to kind of go over the significant changes again, or?
Let me ask the other gentleman. Supervisor Humphrey, do you need more detail?
I've looked at this, so I pretty much understand where we're going and what we're doing. I guess my main point is that those major changes are on our website, so those of our constituents whom would like to see the significant changes can go see those. But for me, I know of them and I've gone over them with you, so I think it would just be important for my constituents to be able to see them. Other than that, I'm good, Chairman.
Mr. Klein.
So, I remember when we had this discussion, it came out in front of us. I kind of wanted it more on that, but I probably can just sit down with you in person, Dart, and visit about some of it. I don't have that good of a feel for these changes on this, and so I am going to need some more information, especially for my constituents when I get in those meetings and I have those questions asked. You know, it's like I've said before, is the floodplain issues is very, very important to Gila County, and we all live in them basically, and so I want to make sure I have a good grasp of it.
I'd be glad to meet with you sometime.
Yeah, I think so, Dart. We don't have, you know, today's pretty well packed and everything, and so I think by sitting down with you, I can get a better feel for what we're going to do, whether I agree with it or not, I guess. So.
Okay.
Anyway.
One item from the work session that you brought up were the issue of variances issued for violations.
Mm-hmm.
And I went over that with Mr. Dalton from the county attorney's office. It looks like the way that the state redlined it is that basically the floodplain administrator, the staff, is not supposed to offer that as a solution to solving a violation. They're supposed to try to get compliance with the regulations. However, if you as the board receive a request, or if I receive a request to pass on to you, then that does go on to you, and there's no problem with whatever action you want to take.
Well, that's a half a step in the right direction as far as I'm concerned, Dart, and nothing against you as a director of floodplain and all that, but to me, it's like when our constituents have a problem with something, it should be up to us to offer some guidance, if nothing else, you know, within our statutory limits. That's the way I look at things. So I guess, yeah, we're just that little bitty step ahead of what we were when we last had this discussion, but you know, the thing of it is, if our constituents don't know that, how are they to learn that? How are they to figure that out if you can't give them some kind of idea?
Yeah, it's in the ordinance, and we can refer them to the ordinance, and we're not supposed to promote that. I guess if they ask about it, we'll explain it. least that's the desire that the state had when they redlined that in there.
Thanks, Dart. I think Mr. Dalton's got something he wants to tell me.
This might help. So I'm reading from the Code of Federal Regulations, 44 CFR 60.6, about variances, called variances and exceptions. And it says, the Federal Insurance Administrator may review a community's findings, or in this case, a county's findings, justifying the granting of variances, and if that review indicates a pattern inconsistent with the objectives of sound floodplain management, the Federal Insurance Administrator may take appropriate action under, and then it goes on to cite, more law about that action. So the thing about variances is that it's not really the same as directing someone to a provision in the floodplain ordinance that would allow them to take a certain procedure. Variances are a unique kind of thing. They're a waiver given to somebody telling them they don't have to follow the law that everybody else has to follow. And those are pretty dramatic kinds of things. When the administrator or the legislative body of the county says, we're giving you a waiver. We have an ordinance and everybody has to follow it, but for you, you don't. That's a waiver. And what the Code of Federal Regulations is telling us is that if the insurance administrator thinks that the granting of variances, and that's plural, there'd have to be a number of them, is inconsistent with the objectives of sound floodplain management, they're going to take action. I think that action is going to be negative action against the county, which is going to have an effect on the insurance rates that everybody's paying in the county. And so they don't like to see too many of these that are inconsistent with what they think is sound floodplain management, or it's jeopardizing the insurance for everybody in the county. And that's why it's a little different to say to somebody, well, here you need to read this section of the code to understand what you need to do here. Or in the alternative, to say, you can go to us as a legislature and we can give you a waiver where you don't have to follow this law. That's kind of an extraordinary type of remedy that each of you in the position of supervisor may or may not want to suggest to someone. Or the floodplain administrator may not want to suggest that either, because it's not really following the procedure. It's here's how you can avoid following the procedure if you get a waiver from us. And that's the reason why it's treated so differently. And DART has run into this issue with ADWR and FEMA that they don't like us to suggest that to people as our first line remedy to someone. Oh, well, rather than face the hearing officer for violation, you can just try to get the law not applied to you. That's a way of getting around this. They don't want us to be suggesting that to people as first line. That's where this is coming from.
So I understand that, Jeff.
Okay.
Oh, but, and for the 8 years we've sat in these seats, I think we've only seen a proposal for a variance come up once when it came to floodplain issues. With the new floodplain policy that's going into effect, we could see it again somewhere along the way in the next 8 years or whatever. But what I'm saying is for us just to ignore that fact that that's an opportunity or for somebody to work a problem out. And when I think about floodplains, we have so much of it in Gila County. We have miles of floodplain areas. A lot of people live in those areas. Something could come up just from a simple issue that they need to help with. I'm not personally looking at it as a way of circumventing the policies or anything like that. I'm looking at it more if a situation does arise, how can we work with that? And if our people don't know that that's available, I don't think that's a good thing on our behalf, but that's where I'm coming from.
Now, if it's because of an unusual situation with the land, where it's kind of a unique problem that the laws don't really work well with, then that's what it's intended to be for.
I agree.
That's always an option.
I agree, but somewhere along the way, somebody's got to have that ability to say, hey, look, talk to your district supervisor or whatever, you know?
Yeah,
That's all I'm saying.
right. And if that's the particular situation, that would be appropriate, I agree.
Yeah, but make no doubt about it, I'm not looking at variance as a way of circumventing our policies and statutes, so. Thank you, Dard.
You're welcome.
Dard, also, I think when it comes to community development in general, the county should not be an enforcement agency as its first option, and I think that's what you're explaining. Let's work with our customer, let's work with the people, let's try and get them in compliance. If there's a very unique situation where we're gonna need to do something, then it comes before the board, and that should always be available to all the constituents in the county, because community development deals with that stuff all the time. There's always some tree or some roof line or some height or some hill or whatever. And you said in the work study on January 30th that much of what we're changing is actually going to be helpful to the community, and not necessarily more restrictive or harsh.
That's the goal.
Yes. Okay, thanks. Please continue if you have more.
Okay. One other thing that Mr. Dalton pointed out is in section 3.9B, which is a section on actions that staff takes to try to correct violations. There was a reference to referring it to the board to order abatement, and that I think was a vestige from old times, but really old times. Now we have a hearing officer, so we're going to take that out and let them go to the hearing officer, and they can always appeal to the board. That takes you out of that gives you a little buffer there for them to try to correct the problem before they come to the board, ask for a variance or whatever they're going to do.
Mr. Chair, if I might.
Yes, please.
So we have several different things that goes to a hearing officer and whatnot like that. But fact of the matter is, we're the ones that's sitting in these chairs to correct problems and hear issues and things like that, Dard. So there again, me personally, I don't know that I like that, but I'm just making that well known.
Maybe I could, Mr. Chair, clarify that as well. So there's one process where the department issues a notice of violation to the landowner, and then they go to a hearing officer, and if they don't like that result, they appeal it to the board, and then they can appeal it to the Superior Court. That process is in place. The other process was, as an alternative, they could just appeal it directly to or they could just go directly to the board. But no appeal after that to the Superior Court. And one of the options was given that the board could offer a variance. The problem with having those two things available simultaneously is they confuse the supervisor's roles as a judicial body and as a legislative body. So, as a judicial body, when someone has a complaint lodged against them and then they go to a hearing officer, the hearing officer judges the situation, determines whether or not they're in violation. And that's appealed to you as the board, and you judge the hearing officer's decision and decide whether that was correct or not. That's a judicial process. You're acting as quasi-judges in that sense. If they appeal directly to you about a violation and ask for you to excuse it as a variance, that's a legislative process, because now you're not sitting as judges. You're sitting as legislators who can change the very ordinance itself. You can pass an amendment to the ordinance saying, this ordinance does not apply to this property. And so you waive or erase the violation through a legislative process. And to give a landowner those two options in the same situation is very confusing. And from a legal perspective, I think it's not a good idea to do that. They should go through a judicial process for the violation and see how that goes, and they can appeal it all the way through the Superior Court if they want to, even to the Supreme Court if they want to. If they want to pursue a legislative process, which is to ask you as the board to erase the law as to their property, that's a completely different matter. And they're coming to you in a separate proceeding, asking for a variance, saying, I got a special situation here and I think I deserve a waiver from the ordinance itself. I'd like you to consider that as the county's legislature to amend the ordinance and change the law as to me. And keep those things very separate, rather than mix them up in the same options for the same property. That's why, that's my further explanation for what God has explained, what our advice was.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. You explained law a lot better than I could. Okay, the only other thing that came out was that the definition of hardship, we had changed it to try not to include the definition of the word we're defining in the definition, what it was in the previous ordinance. And Mr. Dalton pointed out the body of law behind the word hardship, and it should remain in there because of all the other connotations of case law. So we're proposing also to go back to the way it was in the previous ordinance, leave the word hardship in the definition. So those are the two things that we're recommending, that the ordinance be adopted with these changes. Now,
Would you like me to read this?
if you'd like to.
Well, it's short, so. It is recommended that the board adopt the proposed amendments to the Gila County Floodplain Management Ordinance with the following changes. Replace the word difficulty with the word hardship in the definition of hardship in section 2.0. In section 3.9, paragraph B, replace the second sentence with, quote, such information must be provided to the floodplain administrator within 30 days of such order, or, end quote. And also delete all of section 3.9B after the sentence, after the second sentence. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Is that okay with everybody? Because I don't know what section 3.9B looks like.
That makes two of us.
I could read that section if you would like.
Please.
Okay, what is proposed in the ordinance draft that was published is the following. 3.9B, order the owner of the property on which the violation exists to provide whatever additional information may be required for their determination, such as proof of compliance by means of an elevation certificate, appropriate floodproofing documentation, or calculations to show no rise in the floodway, etc. Such information must be provided to the floodplain administrator within 30 days of such order, and he may submit a report to the floodplain board within 20 days with a request that the floodplain board order abatement of the violation. At the next regularly scheduled public meeting, the floodplain board shall order the abatement of said violation, or, okay, we did have grant a variance in there, and that was deleted prior to this draft. So what we're basically saying is we just provide information we ask them to provide information that proves that they're not really in violation, even though it may appear so. Okay?
Mr. Chair, so Dart, in most instances with the new revised maps that we're supposed to get through FEMA, that should be readily available to you as a director too, right?
Correct. We don't always know how high their floor is, though, until they have it surveyed.
But I was under the impression that those surveys will be done prior to these maps revised and put together.
Yeah, the study will be done and the maps will be based on that, on the study that's being done now. And what the ordinance is saying is that, you know, we know the floodplain issues. We don't know necessarily how the building is constructed, what materials, is it flood-proofed, is it elevated, so on and so forth. And sometimes things are not real obvious, and we think there is a violation, mostly because it was, you know, built without permits, so we didn't see the plans. And then we would just ask them, as a means of rectifying the violation, would just show us that you are in compliance with these requirements of the ordinance.
Okay.
That's part of working with you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Do you have anything, Supervisor Humphrey?
I'm good, thank you.
Is that all your presentation then?
I'm here to answer any other questions you have, but I don't want to
Okay.
delay it if you remember what we've talked about in the work session.
It appears that we've asked all of our questions, so at this time I will open it up to the public hearing portion. Is there anyone here in the Globe facility that wishes to speak to this item? No? Anyone in Payson? Lisa?
No, sir.
And Cassandra? Okay, then I will close the public hearing portion and call for a motion.
Do we need to go back to the Board of Supervisors before we make a motion?
No.
Okay, then I move to approve the amendment Gila County Floodplain Management Ordinance.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Aye. Me,
You're opposed?
yeah.
Okay, so we have 2 to 1.
Does that
Supervisor Klein
include the
opposed.
last-minute revisions?
I'm sorry, Dart?
Does that motion include the last-minute revisions that I gave to you?
Well, we didn't state that, so Jessica, do we need to state that?
Just for the record, go ahead and clarify the motion.
Supervisor Humphrey, would you clarify that motion to include the recent changes suggested?
I didn't get that sheet of paper. Is there an ordinance number on it? I make a motion to approve the amended Gila County Floodplain Management Ordinance, and also to include, it is recommended that, to include, replace the word difficulty with the word hardship in the definition of hardship in section 2.0. In section 3.9B, replace the second sentence with such information must be provided in the floodplain administrator within 30 days of such ordinance, or and as deleted as of section 3.9B after the second sentence.
Are we good with that?
Now we are going to pass this to Jeff.
I'm a little bit confused. Let me bring that ordinance up again. So, look at section 3.9B, replace the second sentence with Such information must be provided to the floodplain administrator within 30 days of such order. And also delete all of section 3.9B after the second sentence. So, I think the word "at" is deleted.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I don't have a. Yeah. It's changing what was advertised in the newspaper?
Please.
Clarifying statement here. So we advertised the changes in the newspaper, correct, Art?
Correct.
And then after discussion with our county attorney and we ADWR, and with the information that we received at one of those work sessions about the word variance, we went back and introduced these changes to what was advertised in the newspaper. Okay, so these are changes that were advertised to the newspaper. What Dart stepped up to ask for was a change to the ordinance that included what was advertised in the newspaper, plus these amendments to that that was advertised, and that's what we're asking for today. By the way, the variance section was there originally in the ordinance. It's one of 8 sections in the ordinance. It's 4 pages long. The ordinance is about 40 pages. So, in explaining a variance in our ordinance, it's 10% of the words that are used there. What we did is we took out, in abating a violation, we took out the word variance, but in the section, 2 or 3 sections after what the floodplain manager is supposed to do, he's supposed to work out that there's like A, B, C, D, E items, work with the person, ask for additional information, use the hearing officer, consult with the county attorney, and then if all that fails, then there's an option for a variance. However, that section is referring to what the floodplain administrator is supposed to do, so there's no mention of variance there. But again, it's prominent in the ordinance. It's an entire section all to itself. But I just wanted to clarify what that piece of paper that you're looking at
So
right now.
I'm clear on this, Mr. Chair. It's fine.
So the motion made was appropriate.
Yes.
Okay, so legal counsel says the motion was appropriate. We have a motion, we have movement, we have speeches, so we have a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to, again, approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
Supervisor Klein votes against. Motion passes. Thank you, Dard.
Thank you.
Who'd have thought it would be so exciting?
I have.
Okay, I will need now a motion to adjourn as the Gila County Flood Control District Board of Directors and reconvene as the Board of Supervisors.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Item 4A, information, discussion, action to receive a presentation by the Globe Miami Chamber of Commerce and to approve or not approve paying the invoice submitted by the Chamber for 2024 in the amount of $10,250, which is $250 over the amount budgeted by the Board of Supervisors for fiscal year 2024. Good morning, Maren.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Supervisor Klein. Good morning, Supervisor Humphrey. This morning we have presenters from the Globe Miami Regional Chamber of Commerce here to share a presentation with you, and then after the presentation we can talk about the invoice.
Okay, thank you. Come on up, please introduce yourself again, please.
Okay, yes. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Angel Reese, and I am the director for the Globe Miami Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for having us today. We're looking forward to discussing our partnership with Gila County to create win-win opportunities. Today I brought with me Mr. Phil Stewart, he is the owner of Stewart's Antique Nook in downtown Miami, and he is also a Chamber Board member. He is going to elaborate more on how the Gila County's funding is being utilized. So, Mr. Phil?
Thank you, Angel, and good morning.
Morning.
The question has been asked, how does the Globe Miami Regional Chamber of Commerce use the funding provided by Gila County? Well, let's get into it. Next slide, please. We promote activities and events in Gila County using a variety of technologies. If you look at the Chamber of Commerce website, next slide. As you can see up there, this is a screenshot of the landing page. You have our logo, and right below it, predominantly displayed, is a working hyperlink of the seal of Gila County. So our users can go immediately, click, and go right to your website. And then as you get further into the landing page, again, displayed as a working active hyperlink directly to the county sites. The Chamber of Commerce also utilizes Facebook, Instagram, and we're also researching other technologies such as YouTube, Hulu, and a few more options to further promote Gila County and the communities that the Chamber of Commerce interfaces with directly. Next slide, please. Your funding helps continue to drive these services that the Chamber provides. I'm sure some of you on this board have been to the Chamber of Commerce. I know some of the Gila County supervisors, area mayors, and the most recent speaker was U.S. Senator Kirsten Sinema, was at our Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce is a community rallying point. We're the presence out there on the highway that people come to see and inquire about our area here in Gila County. Out-of-town visitors will stop by frequently, wanting to know about what's happening here. Where can we go? What can we do? What can we see? And we're happy to tell that story. We're open 6 days a week, and we do this with one full-time staff member and one part-time staff member. So we're a very lean organization. The Chamber of Commerce fosters community outreach. During the initial COVID-19 outbreak, the Chamber was a rallying point for the collections and distribution hub of hygiene and cleaning supplies. So with that said, I'll turn the presentation back over to Angel and she can continue.
So, our community. So, as the Chamber, we host key events in our community, which brings visitors to Gila County. Just to name a couple, our annual, or the AZ Poppy Fest. It's an entire celebration of our poppies. Every weekend there's something going on in Old Miami, which so many people come to enjoy our poppies. Apache G is an extremely popular cultural event that brings in people from all over the state, including our neighboring states. So the common denominator of our events is they bring in people and revenue to Gila County. So,
Sure. So to summarize this, if I could have the next slide, please. The Chamber of Commerce is very appreciative of all the support that the Board of Supervisors have given our organization over the years. And we look forward to continue to work with you folks as our communities grow and prosper. And what we're asking you to do is please continue to help us, help you make our communities thrive and become a key destination point in the state of Arizona. And we thank you for your time. And if you have questions, we'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Supervisor Humphrey.
Yeah, you also do out-of-town events for flyers and things like that for promoting Gila County?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so
We do.
it's not just all on the internet and stuff, you actually go to places, and I knew that, that's why I brought it up, because you didn't cover it, because
Sure.
sometimes we do great things, but we don't tell great stories, so that's just a feather in your hat as far as I'm concerned.
Thank
is
you, sir.
Going to other events to hand out flyers, and let people know in person of the promotion of Gila County. That's all, Mr. Chair, and thank you.
Supervisor Klein.
So thank you for the hard work you guys do, and I'm a really supporter of the Chamber of Commerce. I just really feel that without them and being in the middle of everything that's going on, I think we'd lose a lot. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
And, yeah, and I'll thank you too. So we have two very good chambers of commerce in Gila County, Rim Country and you, Miami Globe. And we support both. And we're gonna talk about the finances here in a minute. But oh, I thought I had a point. Oh, yes, Mr. Stewart, what was the business that you said you owned?
My wife and I own Stewart's Antique Nook in downtown Miami.
That sounds like my kind of place. Yeah. So thank you for your presentation. And Maren, you.
I believe Mr. Mella has a.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So we're here this morning in part because the presentation needed to be made, and also because this year the invoice, typically we budget $10,000 for Globe Miami Chamber of Commerce, $10,000 for Rim Country Chamber of Commerce, and $5,000 for Tonto Basin Chamber of Commerce. And this year the invoice for Globe Miami Chamber of Commerce came in at $10,250. Finance doesn't have the capability to pay an invoice in excess of the budgeted amount. So to pay that, we would need your approval. And then I believe the county attorney's office has a question about past agreements and whether this is an economic development grant or if it's dues and services.
Chairman, members of the board, in the past, this has been passed as a economic development grant, where the board has determined that it's for the benefit of the public. Here today, it wasn't presented that way, but we would like to amend it so that it could be an economic development grant. So if you do find that it's for the benefit of the public, then you can go ahead and make the motion.
Supervisor Humphrey.
I have no questions other than, Mayor, thanks for bringing up Tonto Basin, because I was going to, Mr. Chair, you said we had two great Chamber of Commerces. We have three.
Thank you for informing me about that. I didn't realize we had one in
That's okay.
slipped my mind, so.
That's okay.
So we have three.
Yes.
Great. Supervisor Klein.
I think James may have something to say first before I say anything.
Go ahead. Sure.
I think it is for the benefit of the public. That was always been my feelings towards this, and I think that it still is. So the only question I would have is where did the 250 come from?
We had an increase in our membership dues. It was raised all around. I have a letter that we sent with the invoice that said we were gonna, in 2023 is when we raised.
Okay, thank
So
you.
250.
You know, it isn't much of an increase. I'm just curious.
It went from 3,000 to 3,250, so.
Okay, thank you.
If I may, a further point of clarification, in reviewing the due structure and reviewing our expenses for the year, as everybody here in this room can attest, everything has inched its way up. And so reluctantly, we decided to take this course just because when we maintain a brick and mortar, expenses go up, insurance, utilities, everything goes up. And I'm sure I'm speaking to the choir here, but I just did want to point that out, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both for that.
James, did you have something to add?
I do, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Members of the board. With this being an economic development grant, just some things to remember is that there's a membership dues for $3,000. That leaves either $7,000 or $6,750 that Gila County is supposed to receive a direct benefit from a economic development grant. So what has been described of what happens with the Chamber of Commerce, that our events that are sponsored brings in activity, people into the area, which hopefully brings in excise tax. Those are considered by case law that they are not direct benefits to the county. cannot be considered as a direct benefit. So, Chamber of Commerce should be describing to us or letting us know what direct benefit the county receives from that additional $6,750, $7,000, whatever it might be. Something to consider. It can be for the public good, but by case law, it still has to be a direct benefit county. Does that make sense?
No. Mr. Chair?
Are you saying that direct benefit is not described today? Or, because I know what you're talking about.
I'm not gonna make that declaration, whether it is not, that's up to your discretion
I see.
as to whether it is.
Okay.
I would do want to hand the Chamber of Commerce a credit that the last Chamber of Commerce we had come in, that we were the most significant, we were the major contributor to the Chamber of Commerce as a county, and yet the county was not even mentioned on their website. The Globe Miami Chamber of Commerce has the Gila County prominently displayed as a participant with the Chamber of Commerce. So I'm very thrilled, very excited to see that actually, that Gila County is considered a partner with the Chamber of Commerce. With an economic development grant, those are some of the things to make sure that we consider that we are getting a direct benefit. Direct benefits can be, we give money and, I'm sorry.
Just to jump in, we did put the invoice up on the board, just so everybody can see. This is why we didn't present it as an economic development grant this morning. The invoice is broken out $3,250 for Diamond membership and then $7,000 in advertising. Just in case you needed a definition of what that direct benefit is.
Can I ask one more question, Mr. Chairman? Sure. So I believe it's in the past, but it's always been a concern for me, and just would wonder why that there was a time that there was some turnover, some change in the Globe Miami Chamber of Commerce, and the Globe Miami Chamber of Commerce, the board voted to not support Discover Gila County. That there is a spot of the what was then 5-member board of Discover Gila County. The Globe Miami board, Chamber of Commerce board, voted not to have a representative sit on the Discover Gila County board. And I said previously that there was a period of time that the board of Globe Miami Chamber of Commerce elected not to support and
Mr. Chair, if I may, James, if this is in the past, why are we even bringing it up? We're working on trying to figure out how it's a benefit, and you're getting in the past that doesn't even belong anymore because we do have someone whom's on the board.
Fair enough.
So, I mean, you can go backwards if you want to, but I don't think this is the time and place. Mr. Chair, thank you.
Drop it, thanks.
Mr. Klein, any more to add?
I'm not sure. No, I just make a statement that anytime, in my opinion, and I don't know how the law come to be or anything like that, but for me personally, anytime we talk about Chamber of Commerce, the promoting of everything, we know that it's bringing in revenue. We know that it's attracting people and money's being spent. So that's just a comment more than anything. That's, to me, just a no-brainer, but I don't know about the law, Jessica, so.
Well, I would suggest when we do make a motion that we would also include in it for the benefit of the public, just to be safe. And Maren, well, and James as well, I think that if we are going to vote to raise funding with one chamber, we should consider in the future then to reflect that with the other two as well, okay? We're not voting on that today. Okay, Jessica.
Chairman, members of the board, so in previous discussions with you members, we did discuss what legally the direct benefit means. In prior economic development grants, what that looked like, the consideration that the county has accepted is that the nonprofit organization or the other governmental entity is going to provide advertisement to the county. It's up to your discretion if you believe that that is a direct benefit or not. If you want to get into the caveats and the legalities, then I would recommend an executive session.
Do either of the other two supervisors believe we need an executive session at this point?
If you're looking at me, no.
I don't feel as if I need.
And neither do I. So with that, I will call for a motion.
Yeah, and just before I make a motion, I would like to say that by them sponsoring like Apache G Day and some of those events, if an accountant wants to sit down and figure out the sales tax of those multiple people in our motels, restaurants downtown, buying gifts, then let them tell us that it's not a benefit to Gila County as far as I'm concerned, as well as many other that you sponsor. Like the mining days, and we can go to the Poppy Fest, and on and on. If somebody wants to sit there and tally sales tax, I'd like them to tell me that it's not a benefit to Gila County. So anyway, with that said, Mr. Chair, I move to approve paying the invoice submitted by the Chamber for fiscal year 2024 in the amount of $10,250.
And Mr. Chair, I'll second that.
Would you like to include in your motion, Mr. Humphrey, that it's for the benefit of the public?
As an economic grant for the benefit of the public.
I'll second that one as well.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys for being here.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, and again, item 4B, information discussion action to authorize the advertisement of request for proposals number 011224, cost allocation plan services, and CFR cost allocation plan services.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Supervisor Klein, Supervisor Humphrey. The Finance Department has a cost allocation plan every year that we are required to obtain in order to charge indirect costs to our federal and state grants. Our current vendor is no longer offering this service, and we have visited with various vendors that are available through cooperative purchasing agreements. They are not taking new clients at this time, so we do need to go out for proposals to make sure that we are in compliance with the Code of Federal Regulations. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Supervisor Humphrey.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions, but there's none we can do anything about, so, no, sir.
Okay. Okay.
No, I'm good.
Yeah.
We need to do this one.
I'm good as well.
Yeah.
So with that, I'll call for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion to authorize advertisement of request for proposals number 011224.
Mr. Chair, I'll second.
Motion and a second to approve. Those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you, Maren.
Thank you.
Well, we're moving along now. Item 4C, information discussion action to approve the use of the State of Arizona contract number CTR 059886 for the purchase
I'm like, wow.
for the purchase of
Sorry.
16 laptop computers, 41 desktop computers from MicroAge in the amount of $81,952.50 as part of the IT department's computer replacement plan for fiscal year 2024. Carrie.
Good morning, Chairman Christensen and board members. As part of our commitment to keeping the county technology up to date, we've identified 16 laptops and 41 desktops that are due for replacement during the fiscal year 24. We're proposing to use the state contract CTR 059886 to purchase these computers from MicroAge. The total cost for this upgrade is $81,952.50. The funding has been thoughtfully allocated from the capital budget, which was already approved in the fiscal year 24 budget. If you have any questions, would be willing to answer them for you.
Thank you, Carrie. Supervisor Humphrey.
Yeah, I guess my question is, what are we gonna do with the computer and laptops that we're replacing? Are they gonna go up for auction? Do we trade them in? What do we do?
So the computers that we get back from that are out of date, we sometimes use them for the school district. The schools needs them for different projects and stuff, and then the ones that are not usable, we pull the hard drives and then decommission them.
So we donate them
Mhm.
or throw them away?
Correct.
Okay, and we're not gonna get in trouble for donating county equipment, not getting any funds for it?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Humphrey, that's like a different thing here we have with vehicles that we're working with other governments. That is something that is allowed and that we do on occasion.
Question to ask and answer.
Yes, Chairman, members of the board, so the gift clause does not apply when it's another governmental entity. The school district would apply to that.
Well, I'm glad that someone's benefiting from them, and that's why I was asking the question. And so I fully am in compliance, and I think it's great that the schools are getting the computers that we can't use.
Okay, Supervisor Klein?
Oh, I think it's great. You know, if anybody else can use those old computers, that's great. And whatever else, we can recycle them, trash them, whatever. So, thank you, Carrie. Good job.
Thank you, Carrie. With that, I'll call for motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve State Arizona contract number CTR 059886 as presented.
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Motion to approve and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Item 4D, information discussion action to authorize an online public auction through public surplus on March 29th, 2024 to sell surplus or obsolete county vehicles and equipment after the notice of the auction has been published in the Arizona Silver Bell and Payson Roundup newspapers 30 days before the auction date. Maren.
So actually, we have Sergeant High Street up in Payson. I'll answer any questions, but I believe Sergeant High Street's going to present to you.
Okay.
Well, I think it was the other way around. So, Maren, if you can just take off, I'll fill in all the questions.
Sure, I'd be happy to. We have a variety of vehicles that are eligible to be liquidated in this way. And today we would request the board's permission. There's a list of vehicles included in the agenda item here. The Board of Supervisors, pursuant to Arizona Revised Statute 11251-9, has the capacity to sell at public auction after 30 days previous notice any property belonging to the county that the board deems unnecessary for use by the county. These vehicles are currently in the impound yard, and Sergeant High Street has done all the background paperwork, made sure that all of these vehicles are, they have clean titles, they're able to be taken care of in this way. And we would like to use the public surplus website to liquidate these items. We believe that that will increase the likelihood of having a successful auction and be able to reach more constituents and be more time effective and resource effective for the county as a whole. And I believe there's a bullet here, the fourth bullet does need to change to show that this would be on March 29th, not March 20th, but your proposed motion is correct for March 29th. And the way this would work is anybody who wanted to participate would set up an account with the public surplus. They would make a deposit, so basically like earnest money. And then if they were the successful bidder on something, that $150 would go toward that purchase. If they didn't end up being a successful bidder on anything, they would get their $150 back.
Thank you, Maren. Supervisor Humphrey, any questions?
Just one, where can these vehicles be seen? I mean, if you're gonna have an online auction, I think there are people that would like to go see them prior to bidding on them.
So the online auction does require that we show various views of them. They are at the Star Valley Impound Yard and Sergeant High Street. If people wanted to, could they make arrangements with you to go see them in person?
Sure. I think the best thing to do is that on the website, we'll probably put my cell phone number so we can allow access to these vehicles. That way I can navigate through my schedule. But they're currently being housed, and all of them are at 5310 East Highway 260. That's the Star Valley Yard that we use for all these vehicles. We did have these vehicles located all over county. This is one of many auctions that we'll likely have, given that we have quite a bit. But having them in Star Valley has made it easy for me to process all the paperwork. But the public can reach out to me, and I can make arrangements with meeting them and show them the vehicle while we're on site.
Okay, yeah, thank you, because like I said, if I was gonna bid on one, I'd like to go kick the tire to be sure what I was bidding on. So, anyway, thank you. And you said in the advertisement you're gonna give your cell phone number so someone could make an appointment to go kick tires?
Yes, sir. That'll be probably the easiest way for us to navigate that.
Okay, I hope you get lots of calls and we do well with the auction.
Sure, thank you.
Supervisor Klein?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Marin, is there gonna be a list coming out pretty quick to us supervisors on these vehicles, or are we gonna,
It's in the agenda item,
okay, okay, right on. Perfect, that's all I
and then
need.
each one also indicates why it's in county possession, such as evidence seizure, and if it was related to a fund, or if they are surplus vehicles that have been inactivated from the fleet, where those service funds are, so that as revenue comes in, it goes back to the original purchase source or the original work source.
So, I see that we're coming up on our next agenda item. There's gonna be some of these vehicles going to another agent.
Yes.
So, with like the reservations, the tribes I deal with, every once in a while, they're looking for something specific,
Okay.
or a school district, or whatever it is, fire district. So if there's something on this list that's one of these other entities are looking for, what would be my protocol to pull that off and change it to an agenda item? Just, is that,
You could reach out to Sergeant High Street and let him know.
okay?
We have had a couple instances where other agencies have asked, and we've had to tell them what a fair market value is, and the process has stalled there, because they just want us to hand over keys, and we can't do that.
Right.
Without you all approving it.
Right. No, I get that, and I'm looking at this here, but when it comes to another governmental agency, Jessica, the statement you made a while ago is the gifting clause doesn't apply.
Correct, Chairman, members, supervisors, you do have to have appropriate authority. So in this instance, 11-251 subsection 9, there is authority in there by unanimous consent of the board.
Okay.
You guys could vote to not have an auction and sell to another governmental entity. You do have the authority to do that. There is a caveat, however, today you're making the motion to go forward with the public auction with these items. So it may be an issue for you to pull those vehicles off of the list if you don't have another board meeting indicating that you're not authorizing those vehicles to be put on the auction list.
So are you talking vehicles as a whole, or if there's just one specific vehicle in the lot?
A specific vehicle.
So basically, okay.
Yes, so today you're making the motion to move forward with the public surplus auction on March 29th. So if you're intending to pull any sort of vehicle off of that, it would have to be quick, and you would have to have another board meeting to make an amendment to that publication.
Okay, because I don't know for sure that that would be the case. I would be looking at anything specifically. You know, I just hadn't seen this list until, I guess it'd teach me not to pay attention, huh? Till just now, but anyway, so we're probably set in motion as it is, and if something comes up, I can just tell them where to bid.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct, but I believe we have these auctions often, and there's inventory fluctuating through the sheriff's office, so you could also reach out to Deputy High Street, and he could let you know if there's other vehicles that do become available.
Thanks. Thank you, Marin.
Marin, I have one question.
Sure.
Where does the money go that is generated through the auction?
It depends on where the vehicle originated from. So, and that's these little parenthetical references next to them show where they came from. So like, for example, the 2008 Suzuki scooter says it's an abandoned vehicle general fund. So those funds any funds generated from the sale of that would go to the general fund. And the next line down, the 1996 Dodge Ram indicates that it's a RICO vehicle. So those funds would have to go back into the RICO fund, so that we were being the best possible stewards and keeping everything in line correctly.
Okay.
So they are identified vehicle by vehicle going through this list.
Okay, great. And it looks like there's 20, 30 vehicles. I mean, quite a few.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, if there's nothing else, then I'll call for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion to authorize an online public auction through Public Surplus on March 29th, 2024 to sell surplus or obsolete county vehicles and equipment as presented.
Mr. Chair, I'll second that.
Motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Maren. Item
Thank you.
4E and Officer High Street as well. 4E, information, discussion, action to approve by unanimous consent of the board without a public auction intergovernmental agreement number 02162024 with the Superior Police Department, which authorizes the sale of 3 county vehicles for a total amount of $750, of which these vehicles have been identified as surplus or obsolete county equipment. Maren.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Klein, Supervisor Humphrey. There are 3 vehicles on this list that are of interest for the Superior Police Department. Their uses are enumerated in the attachment and the attached IGA. One will be for, they will be for administrative undercover operations. And when we looked, the fair market value of each of these is $250. So the total price of $750 is fair consideration for them. As the county attorney's office has clarified, that is your discretion under ARS 112519.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Humphrey.
So Supervisor Klein brought up this list, and we can't sell anything off this list, but now we can sell something off of that list.
These 3 are not included in
Okay,
that
so
list.
those were decided upon prior to this list, or not added to this list, that we just approved.
Correct.
Okay, that's the only question I have. So if I'm good, Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Klein.
I think if Superior has use for these vehicles, that's great. Whoever did the appraisals on those vehicles, we need to keep them around, so. Thank you, Jessica.
Yes, Chairman, member supervisors, so to my knowledge, I don't have anything documenting like a Kelly Blue Book evaluation or anything. However, the statute does not require any sort of value be given to these vehicles. There is specific authority there that if the board is determining unanimously that an auction is not needed, then they can go ahead and utilize that property for another governmental entity with no violation of the gift clause.
So what you're saying in short is we could give it to them instead of charging them $750
You would have to sell it to them.
for $1?
That's at your
I
discretion.
mean, we're talking $750 for 3 vehicles. That's just not much anyway, granted, but.
Okay, so we have the option to make a motion at our discretion.
That's my understanding.
If there's nothing else, then I will call for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve intergovernmental agreement number 02162024 with the Superior Police Department as presented.
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Well, we have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maren. Item 4F, information, discussion, action to approve amendment number 1 to a funding agreement, contract number 543-23 between the Arizona Department of Housing and the Gila County Public Health and Community Services Department to extend the contract to June 30, 2024, and increase the contract by an additional $63,190.99 for a total contract amount of $189,572.97 of Housing Trust funds. Joshua Beck.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. So as you know, Community Services fell under the Public Health Department as of January. So these board presentations have been really nice for me because they give me a nice deep dive into these contracts so that not only do you get to hear about what each one of these are, but I get a big deep dive into what each one of these contracts are. So as we look at this one, if you ever hear of them talk about a homeless grant, this is kind of like throughout the state, this is determined as what they would call the homelessness grant. One of the things that we do with this grant is we do allow it does allow for like the purchase of tents, food, some of those items for homelessness. But it really is, it's one of the most flexible grants that I've seen in community services. And it really is, if you look at the title on there, it's actually a continuum of care grant. So it really is more of a transitional housing grant. One of the good things about this grant versus what I'm seeing with some of the other community services grants is this actually really does pay for a full-time person the actual cost of having that employee do the work. So instead of like a 10% administrative fee or something for what we're doing, it actually pays for the full work of the county to do the work that we're doing with this grant. It is pretty flexible what it's allowed us to do just in the last few months since we've taken it over. We've already seen like where a family was in a house fire, so we're able to get them into another house, transitional housing, to pay for that and get them into their home. A family that was looking for new employment. For anybody in here that knows, you know, when I know a lot of us in like the college days, you get that new job and you've got that switch between when you stop getting paid for one job and you start getting paid for another job, so we can help out with those situations. We've had other people that just couldn't pay deposits to get into home, and we're able to pay out and help out in those situations. So this really is a nice flexible piece of money to keep people in the homes that they're in or get them into better homes if they're a family or something like that. So it seems like a pretty good grant. I got to really look at what we've spent money on over the last year, and it's been used very well to help kind of keep people into their homes and keep them working, which is what we really want.
Thank you, Josh. Supervisor Humphrey.
Yeah, a question in the homelessness. Do they need to be, okay, without a home, they're not Gila County residents, I would guess. But is there some consideration in being Gila County residents in spending this homelessness grant money?
And that is, so one of the main things that we do with this, not time consuming, but if you know, in January, we did the homelessness count. And so we do ask those questions. So when they sit down and do the interviews for the homelessness count in all of the counties, they ask those type of questions. And depending on where the residency and what we would consider the residency is, that's how much funding that we all get for this continuum of care grant through all the different counties. So it does matter because, you know, where they're residing or whatever depends on what those numbers are and how much funding we receive.
Mr. Chair, if I may, and the reason I ask that is because I know in homelessness, there's a lot of them that commute winter to summer depending on where they want to be homeless. And so, you know, the people that are homeless and have been residents of Gila County, I'm just glad to see that they kind of get a thumbs up with this funding, and it's not just for whoever cares to blow through Gila County to be homeless there that month. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Klein.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Josh, thanks. First off, I want to tell you, you got really good publicity on the radio here about the combination of the community services and your health department too. So it was good. Secondly, when we did that, when we agreed to pursue that continuum of care some years ago, you know, the county hadn't had that until we stepped on board here and we got it. That has been a really, really big plus for the county for all the grant issues. So you know, looking at this, I'm just pretty happy to see the way this money can be spent and what we can do to help these folks. And I'm really thankful that we took that step back 5 years ago, 6 years ago, whatever it was, to do that as well. So thanks.
Thank you, Josh. Yeah, it's really refreshing to hear how it's helpful. That this stuff really helps people. You learn new words. We never talked about transitional housing or people in transition from being able to afford to be in their house, but they're one breakdown away from losing their jobs or something, and so it's very needed. So thank you, and with that, I will call for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion to approve amendment number 1 to Arizona Department of Housing Funding Agreement, contract number 543-23 as presented.
Mr. Chair, I'll second that.
Motion and a second to approve. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, John. Consent agenda items. We have consent agenda items 5A through E. Supervisor Humphrey, would you like to remove one or more of these items for discussion?
Mr. Chair, there's nothing I care to pull and discuss individually.
How about you, Supervisor Klein?
I think I'm good, thank you.
Okay, then I'll call for a motion on our consent agenda items.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve consent agenda items 5A through 5E.
And I'll second that.
Motion to approve and second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries, and now we'll move on to item number 6, the call to the public. This is a portion of our meeting where the Board of Supervisors, on any issue within the jurisdiction of the board, can listen to the public, but we cannot discuss or vote on anything specific that's not on the agenda. So, and that's in ARS 38-431.01H. And so I will call to see if there's anyone present here. Are you Mr. Barsness?
Okay.
Please come up. Introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Greg Barsness, a taxpayer here. I have a small part-time business, very small, very part-time. I'm 76. I was doing tree work. As I look, my colleagues up in Payson aren't there. So apparently they had an idea that we were going to ask for a hand count on the presidential preference election in a month. Apparently that got dropped because I got a notice this morning they're not going to do that. So that's why I thought I scheduled this to be here. And I have many other things in my schedule like many of you do. But I would want you to keep open to the ideas of election integrity anyhow. I know that you've already approved the voting machines, and I was here a couple months ago when you did all that, and you know, I'm not asking for a change there. But you know, the state has, the legislature did pass a bill recently on election integrity. Finally, Kitty Hobbs finally approved one after rejecting 88% of the other ones that were proposed. So I think one of you got a movie sent to you. Was it you, Mr. Christensen?
It sure could have been.
Let My People Go. And it's a 2-hour and 10-minute movie. I saw the movie, very good, has a lot of things in it that are related to the January 6 people that are still in jail. They didn't do any, they had no weapons, they didn't do any crime, there's no, and yet they're still in jail. Also dealt with the election issues, even in the state. I recently had a talk with Eric, and I let him talk for a long time on, he's very strong, supportive of what you do here, and I'm not contesting that, in our county, it's pretty honest. But in statewide, you know, he defends the state too, and that there's no real issues in the state. I went online, and since 2020, there are 10 criminal convictions of people that were fraudulent in the elections. I can list their names: Gloria, Nadia, Victor, Tracy, Marcia, Johnson, either guilty of fraudulent use of absentee ballots or ineligible voting. And so there are things in a minor scale, but then I also talked to a man named Mark Cook who helped with this movie, but he also helped count the ballots and when they were questioned as far as the signature verification. And he said he was there when he helped count them, and he showed the actual signatures, and they did not match. There weren't even there, and it wasn't just a few. He said there were 100,000 ballots that did not match in any way, shape, or form. That's mostly in Maricopa and other county. I know that, but I ask you to keep your eyes open and listen to that movie. if you can share that with your partners here up here, I would encourage you to do that, because, I read this morning, I'm reading the Beatitudes. I'm a former pastor, and I do missionary work still. I share gospel tracts wherever I go. But Matthew Henry commentary, one of the oldest commentaries on the Bible, by the way, is it shares this main principle that whatever you would do that men should do to you, do even to them. It's called the golden rule. So if my 3 minutes are up, am I hearing a note? Not yet. Okay. So Christ came to teach us not only what we are to know and believe, but what we are to do. What we are to do not only toward God, but toward men. Not only towards our fellow disciples, those of our party and persuasion, but towards men in general, all with whom we have to do. That's a basic principle, and we should all be alarmed when someone cheats us or someone does something wrong. And as the election comes up, I don't know if you may be called from us who are in the Republican Party to adopt something. I don't know. This obviously didn't transpire today, but we know in Iowa, one person, one vote, it worked in one day. They had counting. You look at that. It was very valid. So I encourage you to follow that principle. Okay, that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Barsness. I believe I can speak for all of us saying that we want a good and clean election in Gila County.
Good.
And so we are concerned about that. So thank you for your presentation and your shared concern. We have to stay within the statutes that we're limited to. So, okay. All right. Is there anyone else here in Globe that wishes to speak? How about in Payson?
No, sir.
And on the internet, how many do we have today? 20. Okay, thank you. All right, then I'll close call to the public. And item 7 is where we have our sharing time. So I will turn it over to County Manager Menlove.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last week, they met with trustees for the Arizona Local Government Employee Benefit Trust, which is a group of 6 counties, rural counties in Arizona that combine for health insurance for our employees. The trust is doing well financially. We have been are in the black for this year, and it means that our proposed rates for fiscal year 24-25 are much more reasonable than they were a year ago. If you recall, a year ago we had double-digit inflation related to COVID and everything, and so we had double-digit increase to our health insurance costs. It's much more reasonable this year, and so I know that Marin is pleased with the that is much more manageable with our health insurance for our employees coming this coming fiscal year. Also, in the last week, I've met with Representative Eli Crane's office, Senator Sinema, and Senator Kelly's office, and in addition to many federal agencies such as the Department of Interior, with Homeland Security, and with other ones that all relate to interactive and what we do with our priorities in Gila County. And so I've met those and worked with funding on the federal government on a number of different directions. That's my report, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Supervisor Humphrey.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, held a Roosevelt community meeting on February the 12th. Was on KQSS on February the 12th at 5:30 p.m. That evening attended the Town of Miami Hall meeting with the Mayor and Council. Attended an IDA meeting, Industrial Development Authority meeting. I worked with the Health Department. One of these investment properties that are in limbo for 10 years became such a health hazard that we were able to go in and demo a portion of that, but only the portion that was deemed a health hazard. We couldn't clear the whole property, but that's a benefit because we have a lot of these properties. I took pictures of it and wrote a little story. It should be out in the paper here shortly, thanks to Terry helped me write it. And so anyway, that's a good thing on some of these properties that are blighted, that we at least found a loophole where we can get the health department involved in some of these that are really, really in bad shape. And then I'll attend a TRSD, Tri-City Sanitation Department meeting tonight at 5:15. And so anyway, that's all I have. James and Supervisor Klein, thanks for representing us in Washington on your trip. We appreciate your efforts there. Other than that, Mr. Chair, that's all I have.
Thank you, thank you. Supervisor Klein, I'm anxious to hear what happened in Washington.
So it was a good trip, I think. I think we've had good discussions. Flew in there Friday. I attended Public Lands Conference all day Saturday. Had some speakers in there. Talked about some different things that's going on in other counties. One thing that came up in that particular discussion was there are some counties north of us, Colorado, up in there, that have really dove into some workforce housing. And it was brought up through the lands department and stuff like that, how they went about it. But really what it got down to was just the money part. You know, some of them had bank accounts and money behind them to pull it off and get started. Other ones were looking at bonding out and doing things that way. But it was a really good discussion there. Not a lot going on overall in public lands. Heard from the Natural Resource Committee. Brandon Miller was there. Gave a little update on some bills, but pretty much typical stuff going through right now they're trying to work on. WIR the next day was pretty much a recap of public lands for the most part. It wasn't a lot of anything different. And but it was a good trip, all in all. It was. We came back on Tuesday. Didn't seem like there was a lot of participation this year. It seemed to me like it was down, but maybe not. Speakers were a little light, but it was all right. It was good. So, your guys' turn next time. Anyway, going on. The other day, I signed on to a letter to Director Vilsack, Department of Ag, regarding the funding with the Four Fire Project and the continued issues with contracts and funding. And other counties as well has done that, or supervisors, not counties. But anyway, we sent them off through ECO, through the board. We got that done. House Bill HR 1829 passed out of the House and Natural Resource Committee unanimously on February 7th. So what that means is both bills have now passed out of committee and are on the floor for further activity for the vet center. So we've gotten over a couple really major hurdles, right? So they're sitting on the floor, ready to be addressed there and attached to another bill, or however they're going to do it. I'd kind of like to see them just take them on as its own bill and go on with it. But anyway, it's sitting there. One little bit of information we learned was out of all the thousands of bills that are proposed and out there, only 11% get to where we are right with this bill. So I think that's a pretty good indicator that we're on the right track where that's concerned. I was honored the other day. I had an invite from Congressman Crane to go back to DC on somewhere right around the 6th of March and sit with him on the State of the Union address. So I'm looking forward to that. I hope it goes through and I make it back there. It'll be a quick trip, just 2 or 3 days. But it's something I think would be really cool to sit there in person in the middle of it all and listen and watch to how all that goes on. So I watched them on TV a lot, and but I think from a personal standpoint, being there in person would really be cool. I got an ECO meeting coming up this Wednesday, February 21st. That's at 2 o'clock at the State Capitol CSA building. I'm planning on being there. And the YCC crew update, you know, every year we push for a YCC crew, and sometimes we don't get anybody applies, but the Forest Service did apply for the funding, and hopefully soon, maybe this week, they'll know whether or not they got the funding for the crew. Last 2 years, they had gotten the funding, but we couldn't get the applicants to fill the crew. we got enough applicants in Globe to fill this one, but we couldn't fill the one in Payson. So I'm hoping that they get the funding again and give us the chance to put those two crews together. And then, Monday, 26th, we've got a meeting with the state staff here in Arizona to discuss the possibility of partnerships with our youth group, our summer work program. I brought that up to them in Superior here a while back, a couple weeks ago, to the governor. She was there with her staff, and I brought up our summer youth program, and her main staffer was very much interested in that, and hopefully he's gonna be there, or somebody he appoints to be there to talk to us about it, and I can, you know, let him know more about what we do. I only had a few minutes that day, and hopefully he's gonna look in there and see if there's some funding from the state level that they can help with that as well. So I'm looking forward to that meeting on Monday, and with any luck, maybe we can get more money and work more kids. We had 50+ kids last year.
Yeah.
But I believe we had some kids that we couldn't work because of funding. Is that right? You? Yeah, not a lot, but a few. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm hoping that if the state will throw in there with us, and we can bump that up and keep stacking these kids in there and giving them something to do in the summer, it'll be a really good thing. So, yeah. And Pinal County is looking at our program right now, and they're wanting to sit down and visit with me or Kathy or both of us about what's going on as well. So, we got it? We're good? Anything from the Blight Buster deal? Okay, we're good.
Okay,
Thank you.
That's a good report. So speaking of bills, the state legislature has put forth over 1,650 some bills at this point, and they managed to pass one. And one was signed into law, and it does affect the elections process. And I don't know every detail about it, but it affects dates mainly to provide enough space and room to do hand counting or auto recounts or whatever that may come forth. Right now, the county officials are unable to institute many of the things that were requested to do simply because it's not part of the state statute. And so our state legislature needs to change some things in order to adopt some of the things that we see in these movies or that are recommended to us. So I think that that's probably a good thing. Some of the dates have changed as far as the election and deadlines and things like that. So that's my report on the LPC portion. I wasn't able to attend, was invited to attend what's called the Best of the Rim, and that's something the Payson Roundup puts on. So out at the casino, businesses and various organizations are voted upon every year to receive what's called the Best of the Rim. And so it's an awards banquet. And so it was really fun to do that. And then also we had the county-wide spelling bee in Payson at the school. So we had kids from San Carlos, from Tonto Basin, Globe, Payson, all around that were the finalists, and they came to the spelling bee, and I was honored to be one of the judges. And I can't spell worth anything, but anyway, these kids were amazing. They were spelling words I didn't even know existed, you know, and so they were doing really well. And so there probably was about, I think there was 36 of them. And so it was pretty exciting, especially when it got down to the end. Was on KMOG yesterday. Usually I get a lot of callers, and I did as well yesterday. So once a month I'm on KMOG, and so they call in, ask questions. And everyone's interested in Pleasant Valley Retreat. They're interested in the bridge. They're interested in the the fairgrounds. They're interested in all the various projects that goes on. So it's usually a very positive experience. And then tonight, I noticed that Eli Crane's going to be in Payson at Tiny's Restaurant tonight, hosted by the Tea Party. So that starts at 6. And also at the end of the month here, I think it's February 29th, I have an appointment with Senator Kelly's representative, Ms. Rogers, and Gary Morris and I will be filling her in on the Fossil Creek recreation area issues. And so we've got David Cook, we've got Eli, Senator Kelly, and a few others that are starting to converge on this to where we can maybe get some things improved there for public safety. So that's all I have. So if there's nothing else in that. Yes, sir.
It kind of sparked something for me, if I can have just another minute.
Sure.
You know, and a lot of this is thanks very much to staff and the approval of the board. But we're working on the pavement project from Gila, from the top of the hill down. We're working the bridge is supposed to be open probably in March, but not finished in completion until April or May. We're working on a drainage project at Roosevelt on Stagecoach. That's about halfway done or close. It's a real mess right now, but it's going to get better because it's going to drain that area. And then we've done some road surfacing and working on some roads in Tonto Basin, like Crappie Lane, and some of those we're putting on a different surface material. And so trying to make our roads last a little better. And now they're doing rollers to compact what we do put down on the back of the blades. So hopefully we'll be able to get more life out of the roads that we do. And Mr. Chair, that's it. I just wanted to do a hats off to staff and appreciate the board in helping with these projects in my.
Okay, very good.
Real quick, Mr. Chair, on that side, I'm glad you brought up those rollers, Supervisor Humphrey. So thank you for purchasing those rollers, Homero, because everybody seems real happy with them, and looks to me like they're going to work good on these roads. Really kind of tamp them down good. So.
Thank you. We can only purchase them because the board supports it. So
Well,
thank you.
well, it was a good purchase, so appreciate that.
Okay, great. I have nothing else. If there is nothing else, then we'll move on to our last item. Item 8A, it's a work session item. So we're going to have information and discussion regarding the Pleasant Valley Veterans Retreats draft policy named Cost, Schedule, and Fees. Joseph.
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, Board. As you mentioned, this is a pretty straightforward policy that's directly supporting the Pleasant Valley Veterans Retreat. It is the cost schedule. This is just an opportunity for us to bring the baseline up to the board to be able to get feedback and recommendations. So even though this is formatted as a policy, this is just a discussion to see how we want to proceed forward. So on the front end, I'll go over the eligibility, and then I'll step into how we came to the fees and payments, and then we'll step into the fees and payments. The eligibility, facility rentals are available to active duty, all veterans of all eras. Eligible members are welcome to bring their immediate family members, and those of immediate family members are spouse, children, and parents. One of the requirements outlined here are verification of eligibility, providing official Department of Defense, DoD documentation, and that is going to be a military ID or a DD-214.
Joseph, can I just ask you a question at this juncture?
Yes, please.
So when you say all veterans, that's sort of vague to me. Would it also then include those in the National Guard? Would it include, you know, more abstract, what you wouldn't consider necessarily a veteran, but was part of a military structure of some sort? Coast Guard, you know, I know Coast Guard's a department, but anyway.
Yes,
You understand what I mean? Any veteran of any sort.
Chairman, Board of Supervisors, that is correct. So it'd be any military personnel that are active duty or retired veteran.
Okay. All right, thanks.
No problem. So just briefly, we did a couple of case studies from peer reviews that were very similar in size and objective when it came to a 501c3 retreat and others locations that were maybe not a retreat but did support veteran causes similar to what we're trying to drive forward. What we identified there is we're unique. And there was a lot of things that we were able to learn from those case studies and examples and through those conversations. But at the end of the day, we're given the opportunity to create something that directly supports the Pleasant Valley Veterans Retreat. The costs that we came up with are directly connected to the operational status of the site. There is no profit in line with this. So we did a cost breakout across the entire site. How much does it cost us to operate on a daily? But also what's rolled into it is the sustainability practice of direct replacement for the site. Meaning, if we know we're going to be replacing HVAC systems in the next 25 years, we need to start investing in that now. And that's rolled into the cost. So please keep that in mind. The single-family cabins is a flat rate that we're looking at for $230. The multi-room barrack costs are $58. And just to kind of give the board a little bit of a recap, the cabins can support, it's a 3-bedroom, can support a family. The multi-room barracks are a common facility with single rooms. The other thing that we broke out into this cost schedule is something that is in line with one of the primary goals of the Pleasant Valley Veterans Retreat, and that is to create a landing for 501c3s and other partners that directly supporting veterans as a broad title. With that, we gave it a sliding scale of cost when it comes to supporting those 501cs. And what we tied that into is the number of veterans, qualified veterans that they're bringing in to be able to support. So when we go through the qualifications, it's a pretty straightforward qualification. We are able to verify if they're a 501c3 that directly supports veteran causes, and of course the quantity of veterans that they're going to be bringing in to support. As a quick example, Tier 4 is a nonprofit that supports 1 to 5 qualified veterans and have a 501c3 qualification or eligible for a 25% relief. Now that's on the bottom end or the top end of the scale depending on how you look at it. On the other end of the scale, a Tier 1 nonprofit that supports 15 or more qualified veterans and have a 501c3 qualification or eligible for an 85% relief. Again, these are some of our recommendations based off of our peer-to-peer reviews and our research. We are absolutely open to any thoughts or recommendations. For that, I'd like to open the floor for any questions or comments.
Thank you, Joseph. Supervisor Humphrey.
Yeah, I guess I'm confused. Because my deal here says work session item. So, okay, I guess my deal is with all of the costs and stuff, and what you come up for a cost of the 230 with an 85% relief, then how are you going to replace stuff in 25 years if you give an 85% relief to people who are using it?
Chairman, Board of Supervisors, Supervisor Humphrey, what we're looking at doing is, so if an individual as a veteran or his family wants to come up, they will not qualify for that slide scale. A 501c that comes in, typically bringing those higher numbers, it's just an opportunity for them to be able to support the cause while at the same time making it affordable for some of those larger 501cs. An example, we have some that were coming in around 15. They're looking to book out. If we charge them the normal rate, we would be looking at about a $10,000 to $12,000 fee for them. Now, don't get me wrong, that would really put us in a great place from a sustainable practice or maintenance side of it. However, we don't require that on the first year. That's something that we're looking to gain over a long period of time. So it is the thought that the tiered system will not have a negative effect on our ability to be sustainable over the long period of time.
Anything else, Supervisor?
Yeah, I guess another question is, we have other facilities that we charge for people to have functions there. Do we have the same sliding scale for those facilities? You don't have to answer that right now because we're on a work session for Pleasant Valley, but that's one I wanted to throw out there for when we have a work session on some of those other facilities that we're leasing out.
Good news, we're looking to apply the same thought process and technique across the board.
Nothing else, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Supervisor Klein.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm just gonna jump into it. I don't believe we should charge veterans anything. I personally believe you veterans, and I'm not a veteran, but you veterans have already paid the price for anything that's gonna go on this particular site. And with that, I wanna clarify that because this site can only be used for veterans. It's not a fairground so we can have fairs or rock shows or gun shows or anything like that. It can only be used for veterans or in support of. So to me, a couple things. Like I said once, as far as I'm concerned, all you veterans, every one of you out there, whatever branch it's in, has already sacrificed and paid that price. Secondly, I look at this site a lot differently in the fact it was given to us. We didn't build it. It was already built and we repurposed it. And I think as far as I'm concerned, that's a way that I feel like I can give back to you folks that was out there, you know, overseas and Lord knows where for all that time that I wasn't. And I know what you're saying about the cost, like whether it's an HVAC system or whatever, but what about the costs you guys put in there? And so when I look at this, that's what I really see. And I would be fine if there was some kind of donations that could be out there, whatever. But overall, for what this site is and what it's purposed for, and for what you folks have done, no, I don't think there should be a cost. I think that's something that the county can hold up and that we can work with through whether it's other grants, it's other money from wherever. I honestly believe the money will come. It doesn't have to be out of your guys' and gals' pocket. That's where I'm at with it, so. Mr. Chair?
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Joseph, how much do you estimate will be the cost of running this facility annually?
Annually, I don't have that figure in front of me, so I'd have to.
Okay, so there's upkeep, there's replacement, there's insurance, there's utilities. Do you have any sort of a vague idea of what that looks like? We also have an employee or more, those kind of things.
Roger that, Chairman, Board of Supervisors. Yes, we do have that number. Unfortunately, I don't have that in front of me, but I'd be happy to get that to you.
Okay, would you say it would be 100,000? I mean, am I off base? Am I 200,000? You have no idea. I mean, you don't want to guess, I know.
Correct. So we do have that number, but again, I don't want to give you the wrong number.
So I agree with Supervisor Klein. I think the fees are pretty high, actually. we may, I would accept a much lower fee just to help as a kind of a donation situation, maybe $10, $20, whatever. But if there's gonna be an event, maybe there would be a fee for that, where there'd be a whole great big event where the impact to utilities and things like that would be there. There could be some sort of a fee. But I think I agree with him that we should try and pay for this through donations and grants as much as possible. Okay? Your tiers here, I just did some quick math. So if a person went from tier 4 to tier 3 by just adding one individual, they're going to save 25%, which they would actually pay less to do 6 people than to do the 5. So the reduction there is quite a bit. I mean, it's significant. And then the next one is also another 25%. And so it would not make sense for someone to come in and say, let's sponsor 5, when let's just grab another one person. We'll pay less doing 6. You understand what I'm saying there?
Chairman, absolutely.
The relief is so much that it would not make sense to do 5 or less.
Chairman, Board of Supervisors, that is a very great point. And to the advantage of the tiered system, I think you point out the advantage to it. It encourages these other 501Cs to pull more into our site. So if they do have, say, at one of those numbers of a threshold, 5, it encourages them to have minimum, to try and pull in another one to get into that other tiered fee, pay schedule, excuse me. And then so on. So even if a nonprofit has 1 to 5, it would be to their benefit to pull in 15 veterans versus just 1 to 5. So I think it goes to one of your points, is it encourages them.
It encourages it, right, okay.
Yes, sir.
So I'm gonna ask James, and then it looks like you have another question.
Oh, whenever.
James, so the sustainability of this facility, can you enlighten us on the financial side of this?
Sure, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you. There's different levels of what you might consider of financial resources that we need for sustainability. One, there's going to be direct costs that relate to individuals that come and stay, for utilities, for just laundry like you would in a hotel room, of what those actual costs. Somebody comes and sleeps in a bed, what does it cost to clean the ranger house or whatever it might be. Those could be minimal. The rest of the cost, we have a couple of full-time employees that are out there on site managing and directing the affairs and trying to keep up with the maintenance of facilities and those types of things. So a couple of employees that we have is another level that we would have in sustainability and what it costs to run the facility. And then, as Joseph said, we've used, it's a facility that's going to be, when we get the conveyance, it'll be conveyed to the county at no cost for the 232 acres. And then we have used federal grant money and soon to be state grant money for the facilities. So as far as maintaining HVAC systems and all of that, that is typically something like is mentioned about the fairgrounds. When we're charging for those facilities, we typically don't build those into what we're going to charge for using the fairgrounds. And so that may be something you just want to consider. That's just part of our facilities, our ongoing obligation to facilities owned by the county. And so it's not something you may want to necessarily consider recouping those charges or those costs for. So there's just different levels of sustainability. Certainly with the salaries and that, Joseph isn't willing to, but I would put down it could be as much as $500,000 a year for utilities and for salaries and having people come in. It could be less than that, but that's just a number that pops into my mind of what it might cost.
Supervisor Klein, did you have something?
I do. And so I don't disagree with James. well, and Joseph too, right now, we're just in the initial stages, so it's really, really hard to really lock down some good, solid costs, I think. And you correct me if I'm wrong, Joseph, but, you know, I think as another year goes by, maybe 2 years, we'll have those figures pretty well nailed down, is what I think. The other part of this that we do need to discuss, and I think Kathy would be willing to talk about it, Mr. Chair, if you'd like, is the nonprofit side of this. And one thing about this site, I want everybody to understand too, this site has got a lot of attention, an awful lot of attention from some very high up people. And I just only see that getting bigger and better as this site is used and things go on. When we're talking about the costs, you know, in groups, and a group of X amount of people would get so much a percentage break, fine and dandy, although I don't agree with it, but it's those single individuals that's hard. I know a lot of veterans, they can't go out there and pay $230 a night for a house for a man and his wife and kids. They just can't do that. And so by that, we're turning people away. And that is absolutely 100% not what I want to see. Not after we've done all this work to get to where we are today, to turn somebody away from that site. And so that there again, that's another one of my biggest reasons, other than what I've already spoken of. But back to the 501c3. I think as this goes on and more attention is placed on this site, this 501c3 is going to just be more and more. And I think that's going to help us offset costs for this site. I can't tell you how much. You know, like I said, time will tell. We need another good year to really see what it's going to do. But, you know, we had one fundraiser in Payson that we collected, what, 30-some-odd thousand dollars off of it. Just one night, a few hours one night. And so as this continues to build, and then we start having fundraisers there on the site, whether it's other electeds somewhere else that want to throw money at it for us and help promote it, or whatever it is, I foresee it just building to offset a cost like what Mr. Minlow's talking about. So with that, Mr. Chair, if you'd like to hear what Kathy has.
I would, yeah. Kathy, please.
Nonprofit.
We've had a discussion with our nonprofit board members, and where we haven't really formalized an agreement with the county, we've discussed it. But what the nonprofit board members have discussed is annually, quarterly, however we would set it up to do it, is to compensate the county for maybe the number of veterans that do come in, so that we could pay that back. And that's kind of been part of their platform right now. And I should be able to tell you right off the top of my head, I apologize, how much we have in our treasury. But I think we have a little over $50,000. But some of that is committed also to furnishing the game room out at the retreat, which we already have gotten started on that, thanks to our IT department guys. Anyway, that's kind of where we were at as far as like compensating the county for that, because we realize that this is a big project for a county, and it's not a typical project that a county takes on, and we appreciate that. But that is our plan going forward, is to be able to pay the county semi-annually or annually for some of the guests that stay there. And like Joseph mentioned, was a couple of weeks ago, we had a group that came out, and they've stayed there before for just one night. But they came for their motorcycle group that operates out of both Arizona and Colorado, and they've been huge supporters for us. I mean, nationally, they've talked about us all over. We've gotten a lot of attention just from them. When they were planning to come in for 2 weeks in March, I think they were coming in for 2 weeks, and then they had a scouting trip that they'd come in for a few days. If we took their 2 weeks and the number of guys that they were going to bring in with them, and then that would take 2 barracks and a house, we were talking almost $10,000 for them. And this group bankrolls this whole trip. All the people have to do is to fly into the airport, either in Colorado or in Arizona, and from that point forward for a week or 10 days, this nonprofit pays for everything. So for them to have to pay almost $10,000, they just told me flat out they weren't coming, that they can't afford that. And these guys are all getting treated for PTSD, traumatic brain injury, that kind of thing while they're on this ride. So these are the kind of groups that we need, and we hated to see them say, I'm sorry, but we can't afford to come there, because
that's not an answer we ever want to get. We also have tried the donation part of it because we didn't have a fee schedule, and that has not worked out very well because the donations have come in at $0, and I think one donation was $10 for a night. So that part of it has not worked out very well for us without the fee schedule. So we need a fee schedule. I truly believe that. But then I also think we need an agreement with that nonprofit to be able to help the county out. However, Mr. Menlove and Mr. O'Driscoll figure that would be, and Joseph, you know, I know that they're willing to do that. So that's something out there as well to help out with the fees. Because I would imagine it is going to cost a little bit to run that place annually.
Mr. Chairman.
Kathy, oh, yes, sir. Mr. Mendler.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I agree wholeheartedly with Supervisor Klein that our veterans, it gives us freedoms, ensures us things that we have in this country that we are truly indebted, and there are those that have given the ultimate sacrifice. I don't want to put rain on the parade, but there is a consideration as a government that of gifting of the facility, that there needs to be some sort of fee structure. So I apologize for bringing that up, but it does need to be considered, and so appreciate this opportunity to just have this preliminary discussion and get thoughts as unless Jessica tells me that no, we don't have to worry about that in this case. I believe it's something that has to be considered. Thank you.
Please, Jessica, please.
Yes, Chairman, member supervisors. So this sliding scale would also raise a concern as well. Just to set the precedent, Mr. Dalton did contribute significant time researching whether or not there could be a comparable scale for the fairgrounds. And what he found is that it would be a violation of the gift clause. So at that point, it was my understanding that the fees were done away with, recently reinstated. However, if there was some sort of waiver of fees, then yes, it would be considered a violation of the gift clause because we would be gifting something to these nonprofits in that they would not have to be paying the fees that other individuals were responsible for paying. Now, if there was some sort of system set up where there were donations coming in and those donations were allocated towards the sliding scale, then that might be a possibility. But if the sliding scale was just taking away from the governmental entity with not having anything returned to the governmental entity, the county, then yes, that would be a violation of the gift clause.
Do you want my 2 cents worth? I appreciate you. Don't take me wrong, Jessica. I really do. But these folks have already given a lot. They've already paid that price. And that's the difference I see between one site and another. We're not just having somebody come in and do a rock show or anything. We're having folks show up there that have issues, that have a place to go and has the help they can bring with them or whatever to address issues like that. Now, to me, if we have to look at some type of a fee to, as much as I don't like it, address that gift clause, because I honestly believe that's already been paid in full by these folks. But if we have to do that, it needs to be something really, really low, because there is no way we should ever turn somebody away from that site. And unfortunately, it's all about money. I get it. But if you think about it, we have a site that is in the process of being conveyed to us that's worth how many millions of dollars? We didn't build it. We didn't buy it. We repurposed it. We've put some money into it, but most of the money has come from State Representative Marshall or the ARPA fund, things of that nature, where it needed to go back to the people, which was a really good place to go with it. I agree. As we go along, you know, I'm just going to go back to that. I think with the attention it has, we are going to start generating more funds from the outside. The donation part of it is hard because there are people that won't give you anything, There's other people that'll give you $300 for a night, you know? That's the ups and downs of that. I get that. Or a group, you know, like that motorcycle group, I think they gave us, what, 1,800 or something like that for one night, or is that APS? APS had a meeting there. So there's different things there that it fluctuates. There's nothing consistent. But still, I'm gonna tell you guys, I've put a lot of time and effort into this deal, and thank you all for the support. But there is no way in hell we want to turn anybody away from that site for whatever reason it is. The minute we do that, we will lose support for that site. I'm telling you that straight up. And when I talk to people from here to DC, they're all about it. You know, let's help the veterans. Let's do what we can, yada, yada, yada. But if you think we could ever turn somebody away and not hear about it, you might want to think again, because it's not right that we would do that. So I appreciate where you're coming from on the gift clause, and I know it's statute, but in my simple way of thinking, that there is no such thing as a gift clause with this deal. It's already been paid in full. So that's all I gotta say.
Well, so the sliding scale needs to be eliminated. I think that's the message here, and that everyone would be treated the same way, whatever we decide that treatment is.
Chairman, member supervisors, if there was not an additional layer to that, to indicate, well, where is this 85% relief going to be coming from? Is it going to be an economic development grant that possibly the Board of Supervisors has set aside a budget for unique situations like this? Or is it coming from a separate nonprofit organization? Without that, then yes, that's correct.
Okay, so the sliding scale seems to be a violation, so we need to, right? You're saying the sliding scale, we would have to make up the percent of discount that we're giving them. So it's not like we're in business here. You can do that in business, but in government, that's not really doable.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so the sliding scale. Now, I gotta say, I really agree with Supervisor Klein's approach. If we need to stay out of trouble by charging something, then it should be extremely low, to where even people that are on a marginal budget could afford to be there. And then it would be the same for everybody. We want to have people come, there's 100 of them or whatever. We want this, and there are so many veteran organizations out there throughout our nation that may be willing to support this, because this is much more than just Pleasant Valley. It's much more than even Arizona. It's really just going to be a national treasure. And there's got to be money out there that we can try and garner. So before I would support starting a fee schedule, that we should at least try to do something in a very minimal way and see how that works.
Mr. Chair, if I may, if you're finished. Okay, yeah, I support the Veterans Center 100%. I've been here from ground level since Supervisor Klein brought it up. And I also agree that we don't need to charge vets because they've already paid the price. But when our own government's telling us that we got to do something, we can't give stuff away, well, then that puts us between a rock and a hard spot. And so, you know, needs to, in my opinion, needs to have another work session, because I think before something's brought to us like a sliding scale, we need to do a little more research in what we can and can't approve as we go forward to eventually having something on an agenda. We need to have a better conversation with the contents in which we need to make a decision on. Because one, you don't know a yearly cost, so we don't know what it's going to cost us. We don't know where the money's coming from. We don't know if we can absorb the cost, because it's a gifting clause. So you know, and okay, if we've got veterans, but then if we have an APS deal there, then that's a whole different deal, and we can charge them whatever we want to. to maybe be able to not have a cost for the vet. So I appreciate this work session. I've got scribbles all over everywhere. I would like to have another work session, but I would like some more condensed information. So it's not just kind of willy-nilly, that we know what it costs to run it a year. We know what we're looking at replacement 25 years down the road, like you say. Well, okay, if we know what an air conditioning is going to cost 25 years down the road, we ought to know what it's costing us today. And so if we're going to have other entities there other than vets, then, and you know, I would, yeah, if you, my schedule says cost, schedule, and fees. That's what I'm supposed to talk about today. And I don't feel as if I've made a whole lot of progress in putting anything on a board agenda for me to say yes or no to after this work session. Because I don't know much about costs. I don't know what we can and can't do as far as fees, as far as gifting clause goes, and we don't know how much to operate. So yeah, I would like very much to have another work session with some more condensed information, and apparently with a whole lot of leniency to helping veterans all we can. And so, you know, yeah, because right now I don't feel as if I have enough information, or that I've gained enough information from this meeting to say, okay, put it on a board agenda. I'm ready to say yes or no to whatever. I think there needs to be a lot of more work done to make me comfortable in having a board decision. But I'm all open for another work session from the information that we did or didn't get from this work session, to maybe have a more progressive work session in the future. Mr. Chair, I'm done.
Would you agree to that, Mr. Klein?
Absolutely, I do. One thing I kind of have to smile about, I remember 7 years ago when I dove into this, and before I brought it to the board, which, you know, me and Tim and Tommy were here, but, you know, that was the thing in the back of my mind. It's like, how do you pay for this? Where does that money come from? You know, how does that happen? We never slowed down. We stayed at it, and we crossed all the hurdles and got where we are today, and we have collected, I don't know, close to $6 million, $5 million, something like that on this site. 7 years ago, there was zero money. Even after I brought it to the board and we all dove in there and supported it and agreed to pursue it, none of us, that I would say at the time, knew where the money was going to come from. But it's kind of like you build it and it'll happen, you know, and that's a lot what I see right now. But it's for a cause that's just really, really important to a lot of people. Thank you.
So Joseph, with everything that we've said, I think what we want to see at the next work session, which we want to see, is for you to try and put all of this into one package, maybe have a couple of options or something for us to look at, because we're going to pay for this one way or the other. We're going to get it done. We're going to do it legally, and we're going to give the most relief we can to the veterans so that we're not turning people away. So, I mean, I think we all want that goal. And so we'll figure out a way of paying for it or whatever, but we need to have that information. Without the total costs and all of that, we can't move forward. So does that make it clear?
Roger that. Chairman, Board of Supervisors, this is exactly what we're looking for, is to be able to get the input and kind of outline the direction. We had several roads we can go down, but now that we have some of this information, we can start nailing down some of the details, get a little bit more granular with the information and the data, and be able to confer with the admin team and see what direction this is going to take us. So this is exactly what we're looking for. So again, I appreciate all of the input.
Okay, thank you, Joseph. Now, I noticed a man here that wants to speak. I'm not sure that we can do that.
I didn't know if these, I've only been in town for about a month, but are these work sessions open to the public? Or how do you lay out the ideas that actually get this funded?
Jessica can answer that.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, so if you would like to recall the
call to the public, I'll leave that at your discretion. We did already have that at this point. These meetings are not open to the public, but again, we do have the call to the public, so it's up to you if you would like to recall that.
I would, as a benevolent measure, this man, you can come up, you have 3 minutes to make your comments. So introduce yourself.
My name's Charlie Smith. I was trained as a physician, spent 25 years in practice in California, and my residency was in physical medicine and rehab at the Veterans Administration in West Los Angeles. I've been working with some very progressive fellows at I guess some of the higher levels here in the political realm over the last basically since 2017, dealing with veteran suicide and mental health. Previously launched and just recently launched is the Harmonetics Project, HARMONETIKS. I've shared that with Mr. Klein's office. This is the first time I've had a chance to say hello to him, and he was in Washington, D.C. And what the gentleman was saying here, Joseph, regarding these prices and things, if we have a 501c3 here that then is generating revenue for those veterans, showing these veterans how to generate revenue. We have the SEALS project that's been going on since 2012. We have the Harmonetics project that just kicked off. It's how do we bring these folks and teach them how to generate revenue in this commercial setting. We got 500,000 companies across the United States that are veteran-owned or veteran-controlled. And in that, we've got 10% of those then are generating probably 90% of all the gross revenue. There's a huge avenue open out here for education, et cetera, et cetera. I agree with what I heard about this particular location actually serving as a national treasure at some point. We've discussed this. I introduced it to the Harmonetics guys out here in Westport, Connecticut, Staten Island, New York, and now just in San Diego. We have another group that's called Veterans Acupuncturists Without Walls. And this was started with acupuncture free to the veterans out here in different parts of the country, but particularly in San Diego. So yes, the ideas, the bullet points that are now in process with the work teams are in process, and I'd be happy to share this with Joseph or any of these fellows here in a very sequential type of a fashion and see how that would work in terms of the financing, the future, and how the 501c3s actually work together. Every Friday at 12 noon on the east, coming out of Los Angeles on public radio. We kicked off in February of this year. Heroes, let's rethinking heroes. But I'd be happy to share that with a couple of you guys as well. It's grassroots, and it's awareness. If nobody knows about it, nobody can do anything about it. And that, I guess that's the bottom line. So, thank you.
Thank you so much for that, and please stay in contact with us. Supervisor Klein's office sounds like you'd be a great resource. Is there any other comments?
I'm commented out.
Yeah, I think we've had you soon. Okay. All right. With that, I will adjourn our meeting. Thank you.